Somewhere right now, a person is working 60 hours a week, exhausted, broke, and confused. Meanwhile, someone else works only 10 hours a week and somehow ends up far richer. Why does effort no longer guarantee income, no matter how hard someone tries? This is the uncomfortable truth most people never get taught in school or at home. Hard work alone was never the system's actual promise. It was simply the story everyone was sold. In the next few minutes, you will see exactly why income and effort quietly separated decades ago, and what wealthy people understand today that most hardworking employees are never taught. But first, let's look at how this quietly plays out in real, everyday life, inside ordinary homes and ordinary jobs that look a lot like yours. Meet a typical employee. They take on extra shifts, skip vacations year after year, and answer emails at midnight, believing every extra hour worked brings them one step closer to financial freedom. After a full year of overtime, their paycheck had barely changed. Taxes quietly took a larger share, and the eventual raise was far smaller than the extra hours had demanded. As income rose slightly, spending rose even faster. A bigger apartment, a newer car, more conveniences added one after another. The raise disappeared before it ever reached a savings account. This exact pattern repeats across millions of households worldwide, regardless of profession, income level, education, or where someone happens to live. Meanwhile, social media constantly shows peers buying homes, traveling abroad, and upgrading their lifestyles. The pressure to keep up quietly pushes people deeper into spending instead of saving. Years pass. The job title changes, the responsibilities grow, and the hours stay just as long. But the bank balance barely moves. Something deeper than simple effort is clearly at play here. Even before the workday officially begins, commuting quietly steals hours that are never paid for, adding an invisible, unspoken cost on top of every job's stated salary. Weekends originally meant for rest increasingly fill with side gigs, errands, and extra work, blurring the line between recovery time and more unpaid, uncompensated labor. To understand why effort and wealth quietly disconnect, we need to separate two very different types of income: money earned by trading hours and money earned by owning things. Linear income is simple to understand. Show up, work the hours, get paid. Stop showing up, and the income stops almost immediately. There is a hard, fixed ceiling on time. Leveraged income works very differently. It comes from assets, businesses, or systems that keep quietly producing money whether or not the owner is actively working at all. This single difference quietly decides who eventually builds real wealth and who stays financially trapped, no matter how many extra hours they put in. Most tax systems are built around this same divide. Wages are taxed immediately and heavily, while asset growth is often taxed later, more slowly, or not at all. Assets also benefit from compounding, where small gains build steadily on themselves year after year, growing faster and faster the longer they are simply left untouched. None of this is taught in school, and none of it appears on a payslip. It works quietly in the background, shaping outcomes most people never question. Throughout most of recorded history, a small group has always built lasting wealth primarily through ownership of land, businesses, or capital, while the majority earned only through labor. Most education systems were originally designed to train obedient employees, not owners, leaving millions of people skilled at their jobs, but completely untrained in how money actually grows. Many people are raised from childhood to believe that being busy automatically equals being valuable. So they fill every single hour with work, mistaking exhaustion for real progress. There are only 24 hours in any single day, and a person can only realistically sell so many of them. Pure effort always runs into a hard mathematical limit. No amount of discipline, motivation, or willpower can add a 25th hour to the day, no matter how badly someone wants it to exist. To fund a steadily rising lifestyle, many people turn to credit. Loans and credit cards feel like progress in the moment, but they quietly transfer future income into present spending. Interest payments quietly drain income before it can ever be saved or invested, keeping many hardworking people permanently one step behind their own paycheck. Every year spent only trading time for money is a year compounding assets never had the chance to grow. That delay carries a real, lasting cost. Small recurring payments for streaming services, apps, and memberships quietly multiply month after month, draining money in amounts too small to notice but too constant to ever ignore. Without any savings set aside, every single unexpected expense becomes a small crisis, forcing reliance on debt and pushing financial stability even further out of reach. The human brain is wired to value immediate rewards far more than future ones. This is called present bias, and it shapes nearly every money decision. Losing money feels almost twice as painful as gaining the same amount feels good. This is loss aversion, and it quietly keeps people from investing. Fear of loss often feels safer in the moment than the discomfort of growth, even when that fear quietly costs far more money in the long run. A steady paycheck feels safe, even when it limits growth. Uncertainty around investing or building a business feels riskier, even when it offers far more upside. Society tends to celebrate visible hustle, long hours, and tired, exhausted faces, while quiet ownership and patient investing rarely receive the same applause or attention. For many, hard work becomes tied to self-worth. Slowing down to learn about assets can feel like laziness, even when it leads to greater freedom. Even after learning these exact patterns, old habits stubbornly resist change. Psychology, far more than information, is usually the biggest barrier between knowing and actually doing. Buying visible symbols of success often matters more emotionally in the short term than building invisible wealth, even when that invisible wealth provides far greater long-term security. After years already invested in one career path, switching strategies can feel like wasted effort and lost time, even when the current path is clearly leading nowhere good. Staying constantly busy can quietly numb the discomfort of facing real, uncomfortable financial questions, making avoidance itself feel like a strange form of productivity. Years of trading time for money without ever building real assets often end in burnout, with energy fading just as financial pressure quietly continues rising. Many people reach retirement age only to discover their savings cannot realistically replace decades of lost income, forcing continued work long after the body has wanted rest. Each year that passes without ownership quietly widens the distance between effort and freedom, even when nothing on the surface seems to change at all. Without access to new information, children often quietly inherit the same beliefs about money, repeating the same exhausting cycle of hard work without ownership across generations. Across entire economies, this same dynamic plays out at scale, steadily widening the gap between those who own assets and those who only trade time. Beyond the numbers, this gap creates real emotional weight, including anxiety, constant comparison, and a quiet sense of falling behind despite working harder than ever before. Chronic overwork takes a real physical toll, with stress and exhaustion quietly increasing long-term health risks that often go unnoticed until years later in life. Long hours and constant financial pressure often quietly strain relationships, leaving far less time and energy for the people who matter most. The moment someone shifts from only selling time to owning even one small asset, the entire financial equation slowly begins to change in their favor. This does not require massive wealth to even begin. A small investment, a small side business, or shared ownership in property can quietly begin shifting the balance. Even modest ownership begins compounding in exactly the same way large wealth does, just on a much smaller scale at the very start. Once real assets enter the picture, time stops being the enemy of income and becomes its single biggest ally, quietly working even while a person sleeps. Wealth builders gradually shift their priorities, asking not just how many hours can I work, but also what can I own that keeps working without me. 10 years later, the difference becomes completely undeniable. While even modest ownership has multiplied quietly in the background the entire time. The very first dollar ever invested often matters far less for its size and much more for the habit and mindset shift it quietly represents. Spreading ownership across several different assets reduces overall risk, protecting wealth from depending entirely on a single outcome or a single decision. Surprisingly, the wealthiest people are rarely the hardest workers by raw hours alone. They are usually simply the earliest and most consistent owners. Patience quietly outperforms intensity almost every time. Those willing to wait years for compounding to work often surpass those chasing fast, exhausting results. Consistency repeated over many years outperforms intensity squeezed into a few months almost every single time, even when it looks far less exciting on camera. Wealthy individuals consistently tend to build or buy systems, businesses, property, or investments, rather than relying solely on personal effort to generate income. Instead of spending every single gain, they reinvest profits back into even more ownership, allowing growth to accelerate rather than restart from zero each time. The biggest shift is not income level, but mindset, seeing money as a tool to build ownership rather than only a reward for hours worked. Behind most lasting wealth is a surprisingly boring, repetitive routine, consistent saving, steady investing, and patience repeated quietly for years without a single dramatic moment. Many people begin investing with enthusiasm but quit during the slow, uneventful early years, missing the later stage where compounding finally accelerates dramatically. Working harder was never really the actual problem here. The real issue was building an entire financial life dependent on hours that eventually, inevitably run out. His one single shift in thinking changes the entire long-term trajectory of a financial life, often more than any amount of extra effort ever could. True financial change does not necessarily mean working less. It means redirecting some of that effort toward building things that keep working long after the workday ends. Over time, this redirected effort builds quiet freedom, income that no longer depends entirely on showing up, and a life less ruled by the clock. Every single year spent waiting to start does not just delay results. It quietly removes years that compounding can never, ever get back. Building real ownership does not require large amounts of money to begin. It only requires starting, however small that start may be, and continuing consistently from there. So the real question was never how many more hours can you work. It is simply this: what could you start owning, starting right now, today? If this video changed how you see money, subscribe now for more honest breakdowns of money psychology, hidden financial systems, and the real truth behind getting rich.